My MCAT journey was a little unique in that I almost kind of prepped for it 2 different times. Hey everyone, my name is Sahil and I'm an MCAT mentor here at MedLife Mastery. In today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about my MCAT journey and some of the things I learned along the way. I went to college in Atlanta, Georgia at Emory University. At Emory, I studied biology on the premed track, and I'll go into how this played a role in my prep a little later on in the video. The first time I prepped for it was the spring semester of my junior year. So I had a full course load, and I started prepping around January to take the April MCAT. And I started with a bunch of content review for about a month, and that then kind of, continued throughout the whole prep journey, but it was mostly focused on doing practice questions for months like 2, 3, and kind of 4. But the unique thing about my journey was that at the end of my first kind of round of prep, I realized that I really wasn't where I wanted to be in terms of my goal score. The best I was scoring was along the lines of like a 513, 515. And I was really aiming to get around a 520. That was my goal. So I decided to kind of take a step back, give myself some time off, and I ended up actually taking the MCAT the following April in the spring semester of my senior year. There are a lot of reasons why I decided to essentially delay my MCAT a year. The first one was that obviously, my score wasn't near my goal score, but in reality, it was actually having to do more along the lines of like my mental health and my mindset. Each day I kind of dreaded waking up to study. That was something that I noticed kind of early on, and I found it hard to motivate myself. And even though, I still kind of forced myself to study, my mindset wasn't really in the right place. I would find myself really guilty when I was not studying. If I was taking a break or hanging out with my friends, I would always have these thoughts in the back of my mind, like, okay, why aren't you studying? You should be studying right now. And that's kind of the main thing that I really changed when I took the MCAT, a year later. It was mostly a mindset change, how I was approaching, my own well-being during that time. And I noticed that I really needed to start taking time to just completely de-stress, not even think about the MCAT, just hang out with my friends and do little things for myself each day. The thing that didn't really change was my prep. So my prep style kind of stayed the same in the sense that, I did content for a month and then practice and with a sprinkle of content throughout. Now, along with that did come some slight changes in kind of like the resources I was using. So as I mentioned before, I was a biology major at Emory. So my content in biochem were fairly strong to begin with. And I really only needed the books to kind of refresh my memory and then jump into practice from there. And for things like Gen Chem and physics and orgo, I would say those were also pretty strong because on the pre-med track, I had to take those classes. So I had already taken those fairly recently and all that material was still fresh in my head. But the one section I did really struggle with was cars. And I always felt that cars was the thing that was really holding back my score. And the one thing that I did was actually talk to one of my friends who did really well on the MCAT, and he told me about MedLife Mastery's cars course. And that ended up helping me so much because I got insight into how top scorers were really breaking down the passages, how they were thinking about it, their mindset going into a passage, and their logic as well. And that was something I kind of lacked for myself. But with these videos that I used, mostly focusing on dissecting the cars Q packs, those really helped me kind of change my logic and approach the passages in a more sufficient way. And after a large period of reflection, I realized that, it really wasn't a lot of the content study strategy changes that I made. That definitely helped earn me a few points, specifically in cars, like I mentioned. But it's really that mindset for things outside of the MCAT. Just finding ways to support myself, especially by giving myself a little more free time to do things I enjoy. I think that also made me, more motivated to study. And that ended up, improving my score quite drastically. So with all of that being said, a year later, I actually ended up taking the MCAT and I scored a 522. And the breakdown for that was a 131 in Chem Phys, a 129 in Cars, a 130 in Biochem, and a 132 in Psych Soc. And, I was really happy with myself. The main thing that I realized was that the journey is super individualized. Everyone will have their own struggles and own barriers to overcome. I think those little things go a long way. And for me, I think that's what I really attribute the increase in my score to. The key thing I want you to really take away is that you want to be supporting yourself during your MCAT journey. So take some time, take a step back, and really reflect on how you study as an individual, how you learn best, and the things that you can do each day to kind of support this long journey. And trust me, you can do it.